My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for being with us tonight. In our first story, organized labor is to present a document to government as part of its contribution to the 2018 budget. Secretary General of the Trades Union Congress, Anthony Yalba, says the document will, among others, press on government to consider weaning itself of the IMF program, as well as outline other relevant concerns confronting labor unions in the country. This was at an organized labor forum on the economy. Here's more in this report.
Organized labor met with representatives of the Finance Ministry over various labor issues they want addressed in the 2018 budget. Top of the agenda was a need for governments to completely wean itself off the extended IMF credit facility. Speaking to Joy Business, Secretary General of the TUC, Anthony Yalba, highlighted the need for government to consider the interest of labor unions before embarking on such agreements.
All our proposals to government for budget is about how we can stabilize this country so that we all be happy in our own country. But of course, our issue about IMF, the minister told us that IMF is going to be around for the next 1 year or so. We are hoping that at the end of 2018, you will see the back of IMF forever. You know, their policies are not helping us. I mean, you can't have programs with IMF every year, and we are still having these problems. We think that if we get rid of IMF programs, Ghana will propel a step further, and we will be better off. That's our opinion, and we have not been quiet about it. We have made it so open to every government, including this government. In every meeting, including our meeting with the president, we told him, and we said, as soon as possible, please get out of this IMF program and let us determine the way forward for ourselves and take responsibility for ourselves. IMF will come and get you to sign things, even though we go and bring them. Yet when they come in the negotiation, they are stronger.
Reacting to the concerns by organized labor, Deputy Finance Minister Abna Osei-Asare hinted that government is consulting with various unions in the country on best ways of making the budget applicable to the needs of all Ghanaians. According to her, the Finance Ministry will be taking a close look at the various taxes imposed on workers in the public sector.
Ghana got into a very bad state that we needed support to help us sustain the economy and to run the economy. So the previous government there went into a program with the IMF, and we have worked with the IMF since we came into power, and then we are trying, all of us are trying very hard to see to it that we all, go according to the agreed targets that we have set for ourselves. We believe that, like I said, we believe that by the end of 2020, we want to go with IMF to complete the 2018 budget, that's carry the budget through to the end of 2018. And then once we do that, we believe that we'll be in a better position to wean ourselves off IMF, and then we can start on our own. But our government is doing everything possible. Government is committed to the IMF program, and we'll do everything possible to see to it that we exit, peacefully.
The forum is part of efforts to seek the views of labor unions on the development of the economy.
In other news tonight, the amount government secured from the country's share of crude oil exports witnessed significant reduction for the second quarter. This was contained in Ghana's petroleum receipts and distribution report from April to June this year. The following report has got the details.
The second quarter data showed that Ghana got $92.2 million from crude oil exports. These include earnings from 2.2 million barrels of total cargo exports and taxes paid by firms operating in the country's oil fields. The revenue secured for quarter one was $2.4 million, down from what was realized in the first quarter of this year. It is, however, unclear for now what was the main reason for the decline in earnings. This is because the second quarter data actually showed that the country exported more in crude oil volumes of 2.8 million barrels at a value of $146 million. This is far more than the country got in the first quarter of the year. It also sold each barrel of crude exported in second quarter between $48 and $54. However, compared to the first quarter, there was some marginal reduction in price of crude sold. The report puts Ghana's total amount of earnings for the first half of this year at $187 million.
Moving on to what has become a thorny issue, and Deputy Minister for Communications has stressed the need for education and awareness to combat the incidence of mobile money fraud. This comes on the heels of a surge in mobile money fraud cases as captured in a recent report by the Bank of Ghana. Speaking to Joy Business at a forum on cybersecurity, Deputy Communications Minister George Ander said awareness creation would go a long way to reduce exposure to fraud.
So this week has been set aside as the National Cybersecurity Awareness Week under the theme Securing Ghana's Digital Journey. So today there was a Cybersecurity Awareness Forum, and one of the key topics under discussion here was how to mitigate the mobile money fraud that seems to be on the surge. Now, some panelists for the discussion was a representative from the Bank of Ghana, a representative from the National Identification Authority, one from the NCA, as well as a mobile money person from MTN Ghana, and then the Deputy Minister for Communications. Now, one way that they believe that mobile money fraud can be tackled was by coming up with the better regulations and policies to secure this particular platform, and also having massive education and awareness among users of mobile money. George Ander is the Deputy Communications Minister.
But we think that for now the key thing is educating the citizenry and educating the merchant layer of the chain, and making sure that we monitor the merchant layer of the chain properly, because for a number of these fraudulent activities that are taking place, there seems to be a bit of a compromise from the merchant end. Then there seems to be a bit of a compromise from the users themselves, who are giving out their pins to people that request for their pins. You know, once you give out your pin for any kind of financial transactions, then you are compromising the security of your account. And so a number of things. There's no way that any mobile network operator that is running a promotion will tell you to pay some money. There's no way that somebody will call you and tell you that they want your account details. If that is the case, please refer the person back to the mobile money or the mobile service operator. And then when somebody is telling you that they have transferred money into your account, please make sure that you check that the money has actually gone into your account. And what we're doing, once we get interoperability in place, then it means that you don't have to transfer money using tokens. You can transfer money directly from a mobile money account into another mobile money account, which is a much more secure end-to-end process. And of course, once we have the national ID cards being issued that are tied to digital addresses or postcodes, then we have a much more robust environment going forward.
Sheila Tamaklo reporting for Joy Business.
Now, managers of the country's energy bond have extended the auction by one more day to Friday. Joy Business understands the move was influenced by requests from some investors who wanted more time to participate in the offer. My colleague George Riafe has been speaking to host of the marketplace, Emmanuel Abuadiri, about the latest developments.
What we are hearing is that most of these investors who are participating in this bond, they are doing it on behalf of their clients. So, for instance, if you have about 500 million Ghana cedis and you want to buy this bond, and you are doing it through maybe Data Bank needs to come back to you, some engagement, some clarifications. Are you prepared to lend 500 million Ghana cedis to government at an interest rate of maybe 18.5%? If you're not satisfied by that, so there's been some back and forth between these finance houses and the managers of this offer, that is Standard Chartered Bank, Fidelity Bank, GCB, and Temple Investment. And it looks like even some of the investors now want to place more funds in this offer. And so they are saying that 2 days is not enough, and therefore give us a little bit more time to participate in this offer. And also the time to actually bring your money forward also has been extended to Wednesday, next week Wednesday. So those are the reasons why they have been extended by one more day.
All right. Now, this development, the current development, will not affect, would it going to affect the fundraising exercise in
if we are believing what those who are managing the process are saying, that means possibly there could be another subscription. It's a dicey thing. Now, if more investors are bringing their funds, then there's a likelihood that government would now tell them that, okay, plenty funds are coming. I would now take these funds from you at X rate. in trying to minimize the impact of raising all these funds. So it could be good, it could also be bad in the sense that are all these investors willing to lend to government at that price or not? So,
well, the Institute of Fiscal Studies is forecasting an end-of-year public debt stock of 140 billion cedis. According to figures from the Bank of Ghana, total public debt as at the close of June stood at 138 billion cedis. But when this is compared with the size of the economy, the ratios appear to be declining. Director of the Institute of Fiscal Studies, Professor Newman Kusi, said government should not be excited about this development.
If the debt ratio is coming, at the fact of the matter that the money that you have to pay is going up. As of June, end of June, we were owing 138.6 billion cedis. Okay, and the government is going to, borrow additional 14.8 billion, 2 billion of which will be new debt, which will be added to the 138 to take us to 140 billion cedis. That is the cross of the matter. So we need to. And this 140 billion, we're going to pay interest on that. So if you go to the government budget, you see how the extent to which the interest cost is rising. So relating to GDP figures, which can be inflated to bring down the ratio, is neither here. It's just an indication as to whether the debt is sustainable or not. But the fact of the matter is that the volume of the nominal debt is increasing, and it's time that we put a stop to that.
Meanwhile, former Finance Minister said Tekpe's optimistic moves to formalize the economy would indeed help deal with the challenges with revenue mobilization. He refers to the current administration's implementation of a new project aimed at identifying every person and structure in the country through a national ID system. Government over the years has struggled to raise the required revenue to match the level of economic activity in the country. Latest fiscal data released by the Finance Ministry showed that revenue for the first 7 months of this year was down by almost 3 billion against a target of 24 billion cedis. Speaking to Joy Business, Mr. Tekpe said this could be the country's best effort to address this current challenge.
I'm saying that it will be better. However you look at it, it will be far better than anything we have today. And I gave you the example. You go to Ibi, for example, or you go to, let's say Pokwase, and these are not new townships. They are just expanding, right? Amasama, they are expanding. They are old towns, but they are expanding. But they are expanding in an informal setting. You see, and that also goes to town planning, because elsewhere, everything will be demarcated, typical to the way you have real estate developers having their streets and everything should go into the subnational government or the district assembly, planning, so that by the time, the place is developed, you have the streets named and everything. This is what is lacking, right? So as you formalize, the streets, as you formalize the registration, of the houses, and you formalize and you give numbers to taxpayers, be they business. And when we say taxpayers, we don't mean just individuals, to that company that is going to register, and that's why the Registrar General works in close, consonance with the closely with GRA, because that number is what you need for many. Then you are formalizing, the economy. Then compliance becomes, very relatively easy. So I think the perspective, is, I'm not sure I can say it's a new one, but what Professor Sigis has done is to bring it to the fore. By the way, he also admonished, developing countries to do well, to continue with infrastructure development. I think it was very firm. And one of the areas which I like very much in the lecture is, like President Obama, build institutions.
And how best can we build the institutions to also help formalize the economy and even grow the economy?
Well, let me also bring in a modest contribution, which in the context of, what we did in the past, and with the support of cabinet and President, Mahama, we attempted to build some of those institutions. And I think it's very important to observe that, it is gratifying to see that these institutions are not just being set aside, but are continuing.
That interview was shot in Washington, D.C. Moving on now, and legal practitioner Kwame Jantua is calling on government to strengthen the legal system and adopt the franchise system of business in the country. The system, he says, has the potential of promoting informal and small sector business growth when adopted. He was speaking to the media in Accra. The workshop, organized by the Institute of Financial and Economic Journalists, IFEJ, in partnership with Volta Ghana Limited, was to educate the public on the importance of franchising. In a speech, legal practitioner Kwame Jantua noted there is the need to understand the strict principles of the system before adopting it. This, he said, would enhance growth in informal and small-scale sectors.
We have seen how the franchise industry has helped in America. We only have, as you saw, that was given out, between Nigeria and Ghana, 100 franchise companies, which is woefully inadequate. But we need to strengthen our systems. We need to strengthen our structures. Our laws have to work if it so happens that there is some challenge with the franchisor and the franchisee. It's only the courts that can really deal with that case. So we have some way to go to be able to institute franchise. But I think it's a good thing, especially with our young ones coming up, the youth, to gradually start getting them to understand what all this means, so that they too, they can get their loins and see that there's a potential in that. Because you see, the good thing about it is that everything is done for you to a certain stage. All you need to do is take it up and run with it.
Sales and marketing manager at Volta Ghana, Raymond Ahiadome, revealed millions of people are employed as a result of franchises in the Western world. He said the system is impacting greatly on the company's operations.
Job creation potential of franchise. You saw the statistics. In US, in South Africa, it's a big thing. Thousands, millions of people are employed through franchising. How many businesses survive? Small, medium scale business survive after 7 years? Only 20%. 20%. But when it comes to franchise, you have over 90% of survival rate, which is good. So franchising will help develop our SMEs. Before you become a fully franchised operator, you go through a lot of training. We also determine what the processing should be like, the kind of filters you'll be using, the kind of equipment you should be using, how the facility should be maintained, how the facility should be built and be maintained in terms of sanitation, all that. We train them around that. And we also support them in terms of sales, marketing and distribution, because we do all the adverts. We sponsor that for them, both above the line and below the lines.
Officials of Volta Ghana Limited later took the media on a tour of its factory at Kwabenya in Accra. Turning to the banking space, and ARB Apex Bank, the regulatory body for rural and commercial banks in Ghana, has instituted a credit policy manual to enhance good banking practices and compliance. The initiative has become necessary because of the high risk associated with operating in rural banking space. Non-performing loans in the sector is said to have shot up to 14.2%, which is almost 3 times higher than the industry-accepted baseline of 5%. Head of banking at the ARB Apex Bank, Maxwell Donko, tells Lab Business the manual will help sanitize the sector and strengthen the industry.
This is the way we want to go about it. We want to bring out a manual and put in place a manual, credit policy manual. So that is what I talk about compliance. Compliance is about following policies and procedures. So credit manual teaches you how you administer credit. So such a manual has been done. We are given to our banks for their input. When it is ready, we give them appropriate training and it will be rolled out. And I believe that if such policies are put to the letter, these issues will be reduced to the barest minimum, if not completely eradicated.
Now, a report by Rand Merchant Bank has ranked the top 10 African countries to invest in come 2018. The report assesses the economic outlook and investment opportunities in Africa. There have been some significant changes in the new rankings, plus some warnings for the future economic outlook across the country. Here are the highlights of the Where to Invest in Africa 2018 report. All right, Egypt taking the #1 spot. Moving on now to our interview of the day, and the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Reverend Ogbami Tete, has called on industry players to prioritize reducing risks in the capital market. He's been speaking at a forum on security in the financial sector.
Interview of the day.
Let's face it, when it comes to investment, you cannot eliminate risk altogether. Every instrument goes with a degree of risk. So it's about how you're managing your risk. And there are a number of strategies that individuals or institutions will use. So really it's about how do we get more information out there, how do we empower the asset owners to be able to make the right decisions. At the same time, how do we ensure that the market operators are well equipped with the necessary human capital and financial capital technology to do what they need to do. So if I'm coming back to your original question, the state, we have the structures in place, we have some good market operators, we just need to tighten it because, as you know, the room of improvement is never full.
Help us understand whether or not you've settled on the actual amounts on the various players on the capital market with regard to the capital increase.
Well, it's still work in progress, and as you can see, there's a lot of discussion on the floor about the merits or the challenges that may go with increasing it. But I think it's clear that the current levels are low, and the particular amounts have not been fixed. It's because we are still in dialogue stage, or we are having consultation. So I have said that my expectation is that by the end of October, we'll be giving the market some firm numbers, and then it will also be part of the discussion stage. And certainly the expectation that before the end of the year, it will be clear what the new levels are. So we are still in dialogue.
As well as the regulator doing to encourage the issuance of long-term loans in the country following the issuance of the 10 to 7-year energy bond.
Well, I think that we want the market to know that the regulator will be quick to do what we need to do to approve, these proposals to issue bonds. It's good to know that the macroeconomic framework is looking good. At least we have stability, and that should give confidence to potential investors. So our commitment as a regulator is to ensure that we will do our due diligence and all that we need to do before we approve the issues, and we'll be very efficient and we'll be quick in terms of turning things around. But clearly, we are not going to sacrifice speed for quality. But the assurance is that when the market operators come to us, we will respond speedily. And I think over the last few weeks, the market can testify to the fact that the turnaround rate has been very good, and that is our commitment. So the challenge really is for market operators to, do their work, talk with potential issuers.
Interview of the day.
And that's our program tonight. You can read more about the energy bond sale, which has been extended by 1 day on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl Kwao. We are back same time tomorrow.